All right. Hi, hello. Ugh. Hi, hello. This is Haley, and you are watching The Witch's Lair. Welcome back. Equally as destructive this afternoon, as you can see, as I beat my microphone. I messed with my camera, so if I'm off center, don't touch me. Let's see. We switched into Aquarius season, so that's cool. Love to see it. And if you want to know how Aquarius affects you in the season and that we're in, and you're not an Aquarius, check in your chart and see where Aquarius lands in which house, and you might be seeing themes or energies in your life being more organized, more free thinking, more the need to stand up for others, advocate for others, which kind of makes sense right now with the times that we're in. So good stuff. Yesterday, Neptune shifted into Aries after being in Pisces for 14 years, which is really exciting because Aries, well, often gets a lot of bad rap because of it being a fire sign that's ruled by the planet of aggression. It's just, I personally love Aries because of its drive. It's driven, it's full of energy, and I actually look forward to Aries season a lot just because my chart, the peak of my chart, the highest point of my chart is called a midhaven. It's where you occupy your time, typically where you do your work and things like that. Mine is in Aries, and so I look forward to Aries seasons because I get really busy and I'm having a lot of fun. So, but Neptune shifting into Aries is often talking about um, this like before, with it being in Pisces, it was very emotionally driven and kind of lost and a little foggy, whereas Aries is like driven and focused and determined. It knows what it wants. It has a point to get to, where Pisces is kind of like all over the place. So it takes dreams and turns it into action, basically. So we're going to see a lot of spiritual warriors coming forward in the next 14 years, which is going to be interesting to see for those who haven't done their shadow work and step into that role a little bit too fast. But I don't think it really will be fast for anybody, though, because Neptune takes its time. It's slow, but met with the very fast planet Aries, it might be a good moderate pace. So, check your chart for where Aries falls in and see how that's going to look for you for the next 14 years. And if you can find me, I will read it for you. So, but this afternoon, this episode, whatever you want to freaking call it, we're actually going to be going over the moon phases, which seems to be everybody's like starting point when they get into the craft. It seems to be like the easiest point for them to like start working with the earth and the elements, and all that is, starting points for the craft come with the moon. And I'm actually, usually you see me on my tablet when I'm in here recording, but I'm actually pulling out the old Book of Shadows, one of my many, because I love taking notes. I love writing things down. Before, I used to hate it, especially as somebody who's ADD and dyslexic. Writing is actually a pain in the ass, and I'm left-handed. So, I used to not like writing things down, but I feel like it's a good way to get, out of mind and back into body. And now I actually journal every day. So I write every day, and my handwriting's gotten better. So there's that positive. But yeah, so I was actually going to be pulling directly from my Book of Shadows with this one. Typically I pull from it, and then I have this whole little notes, tab in my tablet. But I think this time we're just going to go straight off cuff. And if anybody is curious, the difference between a grimoire and a Book of Shadows, they're very similar. You can call it whatever you want. It's just your notes. But essentially, a grimoire is going to be more technical, more like a manual, whereas a Book of Shadows is a mixture of anything from rituals to tarot readings that they did on themselves and their interpretations. Journaling. It's like a mouche bouche, if you will. And that's what mine always end up being, because it's so hard to do like essentially you want it to be something very, uniform, and like this section is for herbs and this is my astrology section. Like you would pick up a book from, a bookstore or a metaphysical store. But the most real Book of Shadows is the one that's just naturally filled in. So if you ever flip through mine, which that won't happen until I'm dead. But if you flip through mine, you'll see it's a mixture of things from, notes on readings to random moon phases and talking about them. Taking classes myself. I took Reiki classes, so my notes are in here for that. My Will of the Year, I do a yearly poll for my tarot readings in December. Because I take the winter solstice off. I'll do, a year ahead reading, and I always write them down, so I have those in here. And my moon phases are in here. So, you know, with this episode, we're just gonna be talking about what the moon phases are and how you can work with them. Again, there's no one way to do the path, to do the craft, to follow really anything. It's always gonna go back to what resonates for you and what works for you. So if what I say doesn't work for you, cool beans. Can't wait for you to figure that out. And I would love to learn myself on your interpretations and ways of navigating. But mine are pretty routine here, pretty standard, I think. So you might be very familiarized with this if you're a person who's already been practicing for a little bit. And by a little bit, I mean a couple months, a year, 3 years, whatever. I feel like the moon, though, working with the moon is like a starting point for most people. So and moon work, I feel, is a starting point because it's at least for those who identify as feminine, female, non-binary, that's divine feminine leaning, wanting to work with the divine feminine. You don't even have to be any of those things just to want to work with it. You could be a male and wanting and masculine and want to work with the moon and its femininity. It's because it's the great mother. The moon, when you look at it in astrology, it's referred to as the mother. It's emotions, it's, water, it's a water element, um, and it's very fast paced. Cancer, the zodiac sign, is ruled by the moon. And that's one thing that I've always noticed about me being a Cancer, both in my sun and my Mercury placement, is I'm very fast paced. Doesn't help that I have primarily fire placements in my fire element in my inner planets, meaning in my birth chart and the planets that make up your personality, majority of mine are in either water or fire. But I'm just a fast-paced person, and I like to see that with the moon because the moon rises and falls every day, and she comes and goes, and she changes signs every if not every day, every other day. I don't sit and do the timing, but she'll sit there for at least 2 days in a sign sometimes. I know she was in Aries this past week for a minute. I think it was this past weekend, and I loved it. Um, but the moon is very fast-paced, constantly changing, constantly evolving. So when you're looking at working with the moon, outside of just, like, the emotional side of it, it's really a great way of just using I like to say that the you working with the moon, in many ways can be kinda like a planner, working with a planner, working with, an agenda, because it's a timeline. It's all about timing when you're working with the moon. So when you're crafting with it, when you're getting down to it and actually using it for the craft, it's a tool to harness, and using its energy as a way of launching intent. Um and so when we're looking at the moon phases, it's a mixture of that, of like how to do it with your day to day and do it with your magical side, because I feel like it's a little bit of both for me. So looking at it, we've got 4 quarters here, with the moon, as many of you know, starting with the first quarter, which is referred to as the maiden. You'll notice when you're working with the moon that you're going to see that maiden, mother, matrion, crone type titling with the phases, because again, it's a divine feminine energy. Most women notice how their periods, when they're not on, hormones and things like that, birth control, they can naturally get in rhythm with the moon itself. And it's a 28-day cycle, and there's 13 in the year, and so forth. So it's very very feminine, and I know many women who will either start their period on the new moon or the full moon, and some girls call it their moon cycle. And they get really hyped about it because they're like, I'm in tune. But just because you're not, just because your period's never started on the full moon or the new moon, it doesn't mean you're any less witch or any less divine than the next person. I think of it as a roll of luck. Me personally, I am medicated, so it doesn't really happen that often. If it does, it's like, "Oh, look, calendar counting. It worked," but it doesn't mean anything. But starting with the maiden, which is gonna be considered, not the new moon itself, but it's just like a tick after the new moon. So when you're looking at this moon, it starts waxing, but it's still a bit dark to our eyes. So it's like when you see that just very faint sliver. As a kid, I would often call it God's fingernail. Maybe a little bit less than that. There are apps that you can follow the illumination of the moon, down to the percentage, which I do personally use, which is, let me see. for you, because it's this one that I use on my phone, and I've had it for ages, and it doesn't always pull up when, you search for it, but it's called Daily Life with Moon Phases. So Daily Life with Moon Phases, a run-on sentence when you look this one up in the App Store, Google or, what's it called? Google or Apple, and it's like a I don't know if I can show you. I wanna show you my phone, but I don't think it's gonna pull up on that little webcam that I'm using, but it's like a white icon with a red circle, and a red circle within it, so it kinda looks like a moon phase within a moon phase, but it's red. I love that app. That app gets down to the percentage, and it's like the sign, the percentage, you can go forward, you can go backward in the chart of, like, the chart, in the calendar, and you can actually look it up and see what's to come and what has been. My favorite is to look up what moon phase you were born under. Ugh, so fun. But waxing moon phase, we're moving forward, we're progressing. It's forward motion. It's building, it's moving forward. So with the first quarter, the maiden, this is when the moon starts waxing but might still be dark to our eyes. This phase continues until the moon reaches half full. So anything done in the first quarter will grow strongly over time. This is good for spells that require a lot of real world work. I hate that. It's so hard to say, but it is so important. These type of spell workings that you do with the maiden, the first quarter, the waxing moon is that the type that require a lot of real world work, groundwork. This is associated with Archimedes. And so we're talking about I like to see Archimedes kind of like the knight figure in tarot, where it's just progressive, it's moving forward, it's action and motion. And so that's what the waxing moon is going to be. It's action and motion. So, you know, you can't just do a money spell and expect it to be like, okay, I did the spell, I did my green candle, I did my basil, or as a very commonly TikTok herb is cinnamon. I did my cinnamon, I got it all done, little coin, you know, left an offering. Okay, tomorrow there's going to be a bag of cash for me on my front door. Or that's not how that's going to work, babe. I wish, because damn if it did. I'd be over here popping my freaking Badoosie in my candle work and getting that done. But that's not how it works. You can do the candle, you can do this herb and the offering and the coin and the representation. I wrote a money symbol on a bay leaf. You wake up the next day, you get the fuck out of bed, and you do the work. It's a drawing of energy in, it's a harnessing to use it. It doesn't move for you. It's not an electric bike, it is a manual bike, and you gotta get out there and fucking pedal your ass off, you know? So, when you're working with the first quarter, you're working with the waxing moon, we're looking at, the energy of it is very much like planting the seed for the long-term goals and just the start, which is very, like I said in the last episode, in bulk. It's very much that energy. It's a new start, it's a new beginning, it's the planting of intentions, the planting of seeds. So if you were going to do, let's just focus on a money spell with this. We're going to, I don't have a job. I do the money spell because I want to get the job. Do the money spell, call everybody in, all your bells and whistles, the whole ritual. You're doing it on the first quarter of the waxing moon. You go to bed, you wake up, you get your ass online. You apply to jobs. You reach out for references. You network with people. You show the hell up. You get off your phone. You stop doom scrolling and you actually put in the energy to move forward. Think of Archimedes. This is a hunter. How are we going to get the food? Get your ass outside. You know? So when you're working with any spell work, you have to follow it up with motion. We can draw the atoms in for how we're going to manifest, but how are we going to move forward with it? How are we going to actually harness it and move? So keep that in mind when you're crafting, because I don't want you to do a little craft and then be like, oh my God, Healy didn't work. You told me it would work and it didn't work. Well, what did you do? What was your follow up? How did you keep the energy going? Because that's also part of the moon phases, is that you're going to get to the next phase and continue on and add to it. We don't just start with the first quarter, the, waxy moon and then think, okay, I did it. I'm done. Sit back. No, you got another phase coming up because the moon is constantly phasing, just constantly rotating in and out of our sky all around us. you're not done. So keep it in mind. But again, first quarter, we're starting things out. It's a waxy moon, that we're planting the seeds to move forward. And now you're shifting into the second quarter. So this is the waxing gibbous. This starts when the moon is half full with light and continues until the moon reaches the peak light, aka full. The wave right before the full moon, I feel like everyone talks about the full moon is when you get the most energy to manifest. I don't agree. I personally feel like the waxing gibbous, the half full moon, and then right before we hit full moon status. And that's why that app I was referring to is really nice, because as soon as the moon reaches full, she starts to what? Wane. She starts to shift downward in her energy. So I feel like waxing gibbous right before, like 90% full. That's peak for me. That's when we're manifesting at our most. That's when we're really putting in the work. Um, so I feel like if we're moving our spell work into this, it's like feeding of the fire and then really digging in. So if you were hunting for a job, this is when you start making the phone calls and circling back in and reaching back out to people. I applied here. What's here for me? What do I have available? If I'm a vendor, this is where I show up and go to the markets and pop up my little tent and push out my sales. This is that energy. This is active energy where we're moving and we're flowing with it. And now with the third quarter, you have the full moon itself, which is often referred to as the mother. Um, and this is, like I said, right when we get to full, she starts to wane. And, the third quarter itself, the full moon is associated with the mother goddess. So it's pregnant, it's giving life. Um, looking at my notes, I have things down like, do not expect things by this light to come fast when it peaks immediately and it starts to wane. Respect the sacred of the crone to come and the wisdom. So, with all my ramblings, what I'm trying to say in my little notes here to myself is that, like, once we get to full, it's an automatic, like, we made it. And now we're waning down and we need to start acknowledging sacred wisdom and what we learned to this point. The one thing I really love about the part of the full moon to work with is like, okay, waxing gibbous, now we're full. Look back at what we did here and reflect inward and what came up during that time. Where did our shadow peek out? Where was the lesson in this moon phase for us? So if we're looking back at it and it's like, okay, I applied for the jobs. I reached out to do the follow-ups. I showed up with my event. Now I'm at full moon. I'm here and I'm looking back with all this wisdom. What did I learn in it? Okay, I'm impatient as shit. I half-assed this. I didn't fully complete that. Why did that happen? Well, I felt this way, or I experienced this, or there was this hiccup. The full moon is a great time to really reflect and like what came up and what can we release from this incident. Okay, well, I got impatient because I'm anxious. I'm broke. I need money. I'm going through it. I missed this step in my manifestation and I blocked myself because I doubted myself. So I didn't go for the job. I didn't go for the promotion. I didn't fully send it. I didn't really put my energy out there. That's where full moon energy comes into play. It's really reflective because that's the moon. The moon is a luminary. What is a luminary? Reflective. It reflects. It brings things up. And that's why it's a struggle sometimes for me being a Cancer sun and Cancer Mercury and then all of that being in the 12th house. Like I've said before in past episodes, the 12th house is really about the subconscious, things we can't see, the unknown. And when you're dealing with people and yourself, your natural placement with that is it's going to reflect the shadow back at you. It's going to put it in your face. So if you meet me and we have a little bit of a disagreement, oftentimes you should look at your shadow because my energy is naturally going to dig into that wound, even if I don't want to, even if I didn't mean to. I meant it this way, you took it that way. I'm triggering a wound. My 12th house Cancer placements do that. I don't want to do that. It does that on its own. I'm here to hold space with you while we work through it, but that's the moon for you, is my point, because Cancer is ruled by the moon. The moon is reflective. So when you're looking at the full moon phase, look at yourself, bro. Get in front of a mirror. Mirror work, great for the full moon. Self-care, mirror work, wonderful for the moon. Look at yourself. Look at all the parts of you, the nitty-gritty, all of it. And see where you can hold yourself a little bit better, love yourself a little bit more, and then move forward with everything. So keep that in mind when you're working with the full moon. I know everybody's like, full moon. Oh my God, that's not really where, for me, in my path, that's not where the manifesting happens. That's where the reflection happens. That's where we look inward and go, damn, girl, what do we have within us that we can let go of at this point? Full moon. And lastly, we have the fourth quarter or the dark, the new moon. We're starting over. This is when it's fully dark, and the closer you get to the dark moon, the more powers, and results and fruition really are there. It's like we completed the cycle. We're going into the new moon. We're reflecting on what we went through. We're reaping what we sow. We're taking advantage of this energy and honing in. Um, and this transition from the fourth to the first is the dark and rebirth of the moon goddess from crone to maiden once over again. Because you're like, well, the first quarter was also dark, just a little bit of light. And then now we're back at a dark moon again, dark moon twice. And it's not that it's a dark moon twice, it's that start to finish cycle, rebirth. It's all the wheel. It's all going to come back around. So when we get back to the new moon and the full moon is over and we've waned down and we've gone through all the waning part of it, we're closing down our energy, very similar to what winter solstice. And we're shutting down that energy. We're turning inward. We're thanking ourselves. We're thanking the wisdom that we learned. We're harnessing that crone energy of all knowing. And then we're getting ready for the moon to start waxing again and shifting in and growing again. And then it's all over. And it's all over. So when you're looking at the moon phases, that's the kind of the flow of how they work for me. Um, one of the big things that people do with moons is moon water. Everyone's using moon water. What's moon water? How do I make moon water? So with the moon and moon water, it's literally the essentials of just taking a jug of water and setting it outside. I have before yeeted a whole pack of bottled water outside because I forgot to make my cute little jars, collect rainwater and put it out in the moon water and in the moon and make it moon rainwater. I've done all that. But there are days where I want the moon water. I know it's coming up, or I'm there in the middle of it and it's 10 o'clock at night. I'm going to bed, grab a case of water, yeet it outside. It doesn't have to be perfect. Sometimes we can remember, to do the whole thing where we bless the water and we cleanse the water and we set crystals around the water and we put it in this one specific jar and blah, 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 blah. Love when we get to tune in like that and do the whole working, but, it's not always bells and whistles. Remember, real magic is not performative. We're not performative. We are in the moment. We're real life happens. I worked all day. I came home. The house was a mess. I had to cook dinner. The dog fucking got into something and puked everywhere. And I got to clean this up. And my kids still needs a shower. And we got to check homework. And we got to go to bed. You get to the end of it and you're just like, girl, I'm out. I'm going to bed. I'm not doing this. So it's hard to do the woo woo side of it. And it's not needed. It's fun, but it's not needed. So keep that in mind. It is okay to football kick a jug of water outside and call it a night. Leave it in your window. You can't put it outside because you live in an apartment. You don't have a balcony. Set it on the windowsill. Good night. Totally fine. Do what works for you because that's what's most important. And remember that each phase of the moon can do something for your water. It's not just full moon water. I personally make more moon water on the new moon than I do the full moon. And that again goes back to waxing versus waning. I want energy. I want progression. I want to move upward. Sure, we can do waning water. We can. You can. I personally do more new moon, because new moon will reset altar items when you're cleaning and you're working, with your, crystals that are allowed to get wet, or a mirror, cleaning the house. You can use new moon water to clean the house. Put it in your bucket. Reset the floors, reset the energy. I will wipe down items like mirrors and, just wetting a tag. It doesn't have to be soaked, but just rubbing it over surfaces and letting it air dry. Most stuff can handle just a damp rag and it'll reset the item. I love doing this when I get things from Goodwill and resell and secondhand. That's how I buy those things because people are like, "Well, you buy it. Are you worried about the energy that comes with it?" No. There's a mixture of new moon water, herbs, and, my ancestor, waters. We're gonna get it right and get it tight. We're good. And it's just kinda like putting it through an extra cycle, in the washing machine. Why not? So, I will make new moon water. The key I think that's really important with moon water is looking at the phases of, well, not the phases, but looking at the, constellation in which it's sitting in. If you're making waxing gibbous Aries water, love that. Make sure it's filtered, put it in your coffee. Drink it when you're tired. That's gonna give you energy. It's gonna make you move. It's gonna wake you up. If we're looking at a waning Taurus moon, love this for inner grounding work, healing work. I would put it in a tea, like a sleepy time tea, and put my ass to bed with it. Simple as that. If we're looking at 90 percentile moon in Libra, I would put that in my bath water and I'd bathe in it because I would want to harness the energy of Venus and make myself feel pretty and make myself feel good and use the clarity that comes with the Libra sign, because it's an air sign. And it also can detach from emotion like nobody's business. So it's nice to just pluck yourself out of your feelings in a full moon water, Libra water, to really reset yourself. Um, now I'm wanting to go through all the signs and, like, say what I would use this for, you know? If I'm having a social gathering, I'd use waxing gibbous Gemini water for the lemonade. Everybody be social, talk, casual, interact with each other, fun energy, Gemini, you know? If I made, let's say, waxing gibbous Scorpio water, I would use that in spell work. Honestly, it'd be really good for, um what's the word I'm looking for? Chaos magic. That'd be more Aries. Um, no, it's that, I hate it, my brain, it glitches out. Man, I'm gonna be laying in bed tonight, and this word is gonna hit me, I'm gonna be so mad. Ugh, it's like a retaliation almost. If you were doing spell work because someone's, like, sending you negative energy, I would use it to send it right back to them, reflect it right back to them, or to protect yourself. Waxing gibbous Scorpio, water, I would use that to set my wards with it. Yep, 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 yep. I would set my wards with that. Take that water, dip your fingers in it, draw runes, draw sigils, just draw a pinnacle. I would use that to lock mirrors. A lot of people are scared about mirrors. I can see it. I know, but I lock them. You know, clockwise through the corners, pinnacles, boom, boom, boom. The elements, locking it. See the lock. We're locked. Nothing can come through. Nothing can look through. This is just my mirror. Um, I'm really gonna be annoyed that I can't figure out that word that I was trying to think of. It's like retaliation, defensive, not defensive, offensive now. Anyways, but look at the sign that the moon is in, and try and figure out how you would use that water. Look at its essence, its energy, pair it with the moon phase. How do those talk? How does that work for you? How would that show up? Because you can, if you have the right water, you can use it for anything. Drinking it, eating it, cooking with it. Oh my god, a Taurus waning moon in my soup? Taurus waning moon water in my soup? Ugh, heal you right up the butt. Oh my gosh, that sounds great. We're gonna put that on the list. When's the next Taurus moon? Now you guys got me thinking. Mhm. See, this helps me too. But yeah, so when you're looking at the moon phases, I like to look at it as a progression, a turning of the wheel, a cycle, because that's really so much of the craft itself is looking at the turning of the wheel, the cycle, the Sabbats. It's coming back around, you know? But you can use it in so many different ways, from making moon water to setting out your crystals and altar items to let it reset it if you can't, dampen it. I love to set my tarot cards out under the new moon just to reset her. And then to put her out with the full moon of Scorpio, harness that eighth house metaphysical occult energy, charge her up with intuition, Um, but it's a great way to start. with figuring out moon phases, figuring out the zodiac signs. I think that's a great way to work with them because it's a slow pace, it's in the moment. A lot of people with all my astrology talk, they're constantly like, "Oh, I want to know astrology, but it's so much and the astrology, I really want to get into it, but I don't know where to start." Start with the signs. That's where I started. Start with the signs. Just take one at a time, take it as it comes. Oh, I can't pick where to start. What is it in right now? Start there. And what is it in tomorrow? Start there. It's going to go through all the signs pretty quickly because it's the moon. She moves fast. Um, but look at it that way, and then it'll be more familiarized because you actually worked with it. You didn't just read about it. You dialed into it. You looked at its correspondence and its, polarities and element and colors and symbols and things like that. And it becomes more, because then you start seeing where it shows up in your life. As soon as we shifted into Capricorn season, I started organizing my house. That's Capricorn. It's ruled by Saturn. We're now in Aquarius, and it's the same thing. It's ruled by Saturn, but it's also ruled by Uranus, and it's very much the energy of organizing your life, setting better standards for yourself, following through with task. It's momentum. It's in motion. It's the big change. So start there. Start with working with the season itself and the moon phases and the signs that they're in. It's an Aquarius season. We're in an Aries moon. What does that look like? How does that resonate? And that's a great place to start. And it's a great way to just interact with your craft and be more hands-on. And I think that's what makes it really special is when you get your hands in there and you get in the nitty-gritty and it's not just reading it, it's living it, it's breathing it. So start journaling. Journal your moon phases, what's going on. And it doesn't have to be like, "Dear diary, today it was a Virgo moon and I went for a walk because that was what Virgo would do. No. I mean, do it, whatever, if that's what resonates with you. But when you look at my journal, which again, you're not gonna until I'm dead, um, it's like I have the tarot readings that I did and the phases that we're in, and it's just keyword sentences and affirmations and energies that we're working with. It's not always some big explanation of my life because it doesn't matter. The details don't matter when I'm working in that because I know the details. I don't have to write it all out. I don't have to spell it out. I know. But yeah, it's a great way to interact with your craft and it makes it more inspiring and more intimate and more sacred because you're really just you're getting your hands in there. You're living it and you're breathing it at that point. So I hope with the moon phases that you are embracing them and enjoying them. I think our next one is going to be February 3rd in Leo. We have both solar and um, lunar eclipses coming up soon within March, and so that's going to be fun. People want to know, oh, do you make water with eclipse season? And a lot of people are like, don't do that. Don't make a water during an eclipse. First of all, if you can time that shit, bravo, because they're quick. And then the time zones are different, and you can't see it because the clouds are out. Which, mind you, if the clouds are out, the moon's still there. Homegirl's still out there. You can't see her, but she sees you, and her energy still matters. But if you can time it correctly and get your stuff out there, I personally like lunar eclipse water for, shadow work. Pour yourself a cup of tea with that water. Depending on the sign, be ready. Certain ones are gonna drop kick you into shadow work, some are gonna be a little bit more gentle, and that's where your studies go back of working with the signs. I think our solar eclipse will be in Leo and our lunar eclipse will be in Aquarius, maybe? I'm not that far into my own working, so I haven't looked at it, and I probably should have before I recorded this, but who's real? Me. So definitely didn't think about that because I worked all day and then I came here, so you should be happy that I filmed this because I am behind. I'm just joking. But looking at lunar eclipse water, it's really good for shadow work. Pouring yourself a tea when you're really trying to get into that space and really do the work. Um, it's a good one for like a meditation. I would drink it and then do a meditation and then journal after because shadow work isn't really something that you can just, sit down and be like, okay, let's do this, launch me. Most times shadow work comes up in the moment because it's how we're responding to situations. It's how we're emotionally responding because that's where our shadow is our emotions. Um, but it's a nice way to kind of integrate. If you've got some journal prompts that you can get on, I mean, you can find them anywhere. You can buy the journal. You can look up the prompts on Pinterest, the cursed AI that everybody uses. Ooh. Um, but it would be a fun way to work with it. So, yes, lunar eclipse water is fine. Pay attention to what kind you're working with, before you launch yourself into it, and, I think it'll be easier for you to dip your toes into that water, but but also getting it is really hard. And, you know, there's actually moon workers and solar workers who do not let their waters touch the other luminary. So I have known moon workers who do not work with the sun in that way, and they do not want the sun touching their moon water, and vice versa. Solar workers, sun workers, they don't want the moon touching their waters. It's all about practice. Figure out which one works for you. Work with both. I'll make moon water. I do sun tea, and because that's what I grew up on. I'm from the South. We would make teas with the sun. We would slow steep it. So my herbs go out in the sun. My teas go out in the sun for slow seepage. But waters I usually craft with the moon because the moon is the water. So that's what works for me. So I hope this episode on moon phases was a little educational for you. Hopefully you soaked up this knowledge like I did the first time I read a moon book many moons ago. But yeah, tune in next time. May the sun guide you and the earth ground you.